Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today for this very, very special occasion. On behalf of owner Pat Bowlen and the rest of our organization, we are thrilled to welcome back Gary Kubiak as the 15th head coach of the Denver Broncos. I'd like to welcome Gary's wife, Rhonda, and acknowledge their three sons, one of whom, Klein, is probably in the audience somewhere. He works for us in the personnel department, as well as their other two boys, Clay and Clint. They aren't here today, but we look forward hopefully to see them very, very soon here at Dove Valley. John Elway will speak to you shortly about the process of identifying Coach Kubiak as the right head coach to lead this organization. I want to commend John, first of all, though, for an organized, focused manner in which he went about this process of hiring our next head coach. It was a fast-moving ordeal, and he got through it very, very well, very organized. It requires 24-hour attention, and he secured and identified the right man for the job. And John, thanks for everything you did with that. Appreciate it. Many of you here have already gotten to know Coach Kubiak, of course, during the time that he was here as a player and as a coach. He was here for 9 years as a player, 11 years as an offensive coordinator. But for those of you who haven't, I believe that soon you'll see the qualities that Gary not only has as a coach, but that he has as a person, and your mind will be made up as ours that he is the perfect fit to be our next head coach. One thing is clear about Gary Kubiak. He is a Bronco. He understands what this team stands for and the values that have been established under Pat Bowlen. He also knows the passion of Broncos fans and the special relationship that this team has with this city, this community, and the entire Rocky Mountain region. Coach Kubiak also knows how to win. During his 31 seasons as a player and coach, he's been part of 17 playoff teams. He's won 12 division titles, been on 8 conference championship teams, and 6 Super Bowls he appeared in. He's coached on 3 world championship staffs, the 1994 San Francisco 49ers, and of course, the 1997 and 1998 Denver Broncos, who won back-to-back Super Bowls. During his 11 years in Denver as the Broncos offensive coordinator, including 4 years with John Elway as his quarterback, Coach Kubiak oversaw one of the most prolific offenses in NFL history. During that period, the Broncos led the NFL in scoring, in total yards, rushing yards, and most importantly, wins. Gary established himself during that time as one of the best offensive minds in the league. You know, it was difficult in 2005 seeing Gary leave our organization at the end of that season. It was actually January of '06, I believe. But he'd earned the right to pursue his dream to be an NFL coach. He did so, went down to Houston and coached the Texans. He took over a 2-14 team and built it into a perennial playoff contender, leading the Texans to their first division titles and postseason appearances in their franchise's history. Most recently, Gary helped the Baltimore Ravens offense become one of the NFL's most improved units this past season as their offensive coordinator, playing a key role in the team's return to the postseason. In Gary's 9 years since he was last a Bronco, it is clear he has grown as a coach and will bring new and fresh ideas to help this team reach its goal of winning another Super Bowl. Coach Kubiak, congratulations. We're glad to have you back as a Bronco. And at this time, I'd like John Elway to come up and just say a few remarks.
Thanks, Joe. You know what, Joe? Maybe we ought to compare notes a little bit because you took about half my speech right there. So I'm going to keep this short. But I'd really like to say that this is really an exciting day for the Broncos as well as our fans. I think anytime you go through a coaching change, there's always questions coming out the other end whether you got the right guy. And I will tell you this, in my mind, there is not a better job to take over the Denver Broncos. And so I'm thrilled that Gary's going to be our next head coach. I know what Gary Kubiak's about. Pleasure. I've known him for 30 years, had a chance to play with him, play for him. I know his philosophies, and I know what he can do. I know his goals are the same as mine, and that's to win and to win world championships. And to have that ability to be able to have a guy like Gary that you trust, that I respect deeply about his football knowledge and what he can do to this football team, hopefully to take us to that next level. He's got all those qualities. And I think even the most important thing is the quality he does have is he's a Denver Bronco. He knows what Pat Bowlen wants. He knows the expectations that Pat has. He knows the culture of this organization. He knows the culture of this building. And so in my mind, as I said, and not only in my mind, but Joe, as we're going through the process, and really on Sunday to go down and meet with Gary down there and you know, spend some time with him and see what he's learned over the last, 10, 12 years since when we haven't had a lot of time to spend together, that the knowledge that he's gained through his experience, I think, all it will do is continue to make him a better coach, and it's going to make us a better organization. So with that said, there's not a greater honor for me than to introduce Gary Kubiak as our 15th head coach.
Wow, what a day. Well, one thing y'all learn about me real quick is when I'm up in front of the team or in front of the media, I'm not a notes guy. I kind of wing things, so I'm going to wing this right here and do the best job I can. But I want to start off with some thank yous. First off, I want to thank the Baltimore Ravens. That was extremely important to me because it's been a heck of a year for this guy. And without that organization giving me an opportunity about the same time last year, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I really want to thank Steve, Ozzie, John, the players, the organization. I was proud to be a part of them, and I appreciate the opportunity they gave me. It was a wonderful experience. I learned a great deal. I want to thank my family. Obviously, Rhonda's here, one of my boys. But in this business, without a great family, it's tough. It's tough. For me to go out and chase my dreams, Rhonda's always let me do that. It's a tough business, a lot of hours, a lot of work. She's always kept it under control and said, go get after it. So we're going to get after it again here, hon. So I thank you so much. And then most importantly, I want to thank Pat, Annabelle, the Bowlen family, Joe, John. They're family to me. The Bowlen family gave me my first opportunity as a player. And really, they gave me my first opportunity as a coach. And I don't know how many years it is. I want to say 20, 21, 22 years that I've been a part of this organization. But there was no doubt when I got off the plane yesterday that I was home. I mean, from me seeing Fred to me seeing Bishy when I got off the plane and John, I knew that I was home. But I'm just so proud to be back in the Bronco Nation. It's been a big part of my life, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it again. Now, with all those things being said, I want everybody to understand that I do understand the expectations of this organization, and that's why I love it so much. I know that each and every year this team is built, and the job that Joe and John do in building this team is for one reason, and one reason only, and that's to win a championship. And fortunately, I was part of that. I was part of the last one. And I want to do that again. But the thing that I do understand in this business is that those things don't just happen. You have to work to make those happen. And that's the thing that I'm most comfortable with. I'm comfortable with the work. Not so much with this, but I'm comfortable out there between those lines, and I'm comfortable with the work. And I can't wait to get started with a good group of coaches, a tremendous group of people that I believe in and trust in so much, and go out there and chase that next championship for the Bronco Nation. So just thank you so much for letting me have the opportunity to do that. And the last thing I'd say before I answer some questions, I know there's some players here today. I want the players out there to know. I'll be getting in touch with each and every one of you here very quickly. But I want y'all to know how proud I am to be a part of it. I know that I have a job to do but I'm one of you, and we're going to do it together. And I look forward to it so much. So once again, thank you, Pat. Thank you so much for bringing me home. Now it's time to go to work, and I will definitely do that. So without further ado, I'm more than welcome to answer some questions.
Coach, welcome back.
Thanks.
Peyton Manning, have you talked to him? Where do you stand with his situation?
Yes, we have talked. Talked a couple of days ago at length. Talked a little bit last night through via text and those type of things. Talked about a lot of stuff, but the bottom line, we've basically come to the conclusion. I know he's got some things going on, family things right now, and obviously I've got a lot going on here the next couple of days. But we're going to get together and sit down. The thing I want to do is I want to be the best support system I can be for Peyton. But yes, we've had some very good conversations, and we'll have many more.
Gary Kubiak, Denver. You've taken over a 12-4 team, not a 4-12 team with high draft picks and low expectations. There's high expectations, low draft picks. Is there any difference coming into a pressure cooker where the Super Bowl or bust is kind of the?
No, I mean that's what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of expectation. I was a part of that the whole time I was here. I was a part of that this past year in Baltimore. That's one of the reasons I went to Baltimore. I know how much they put into winning each and every year and the expectations that were there. I was part of Houston establishing some expectations, which I'm very proud of the people that went and did that. So, I mean, if you're working in this business, that's the opportunity you want. You want a chance to win a championship. You want to be around people that's the way they go about their business. So, no, I see that as a plus, and that's something that I welcome and I look forward to.
Hi, Coach.
Hi.
What's your vision in taking this team to the next level?
Well, first off, it's a great football team. A great football team has done a lot of great things. You have to put yourself in position. The next level is the Super Bowl, right? Winning the Super Bowl. And every year there are teams that make their way to the playoffs, have opportunities, but don't quite get there. So we always talk about the next step. But you have to make sure that you're positioning yourself all the time to taking that next step. And I know that the job that John does in putting the team together and the players that he surrounds the coaches with will continually give yourself an opportunity to do that. So you get yourself in that position. It's always important that you're at your best once you get to January. And it's been proven year in and year out. It's not how you get there, but once you get there, how you're playing. So we got to go to work on getting there and then be playing our best at that time.
Gary, how's it going?
I'm good.
Just going back to Peyton a little bit. When you talked to him, did you get to any level of whether or not you could build a playbook for him? There's been a lot of the talk on the outside that your offense per se doesn't sort of fit what he does.
Well, it's easy to build a playbook for him. I mean, he's been the master at it for many, many years, and you're talking about a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame person. We didn't really get that far. It was just really conversations talking about family. There was some conversation about the Pro Bowl. There were some conversations about how he was feeling, those type of things. But really, we were just kind of setting the stage, so to speak, for our time to get together and visit on things. And like I said, just do everything I can to support him. I mean, this is his time. This is his time, his decision. And I need to be there for him in any way that I can. And that's what I plan on doing.
Gary, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Last time we saw you as a head coach on the sideline, you went down, and it was a scary moment, I'm sure, for you. Where's your health? How confident are you that won't happen again?
I actually came back after that. That wasn't the last time. I made it back for a few more. But no, I mean, it was a scary time. I was talking to John about this the other day. Just probably ran myself in the ground a little bit. I think I learned a lot from that. I'm doing great. I'm feeling fine. Hopefully I look okay, but I'm doing fine. I've worked through that, and I think it's like anything else. You're giving something everything you have. It was a tough season, tough situation, and I was going to keep swinging, and I probably, like I said, probably just ran myself down a little bit too much, but I've come back from it. Everybody tells me I'm doing just fine. Took a big physical this past week, so I'm ready to go. I'm good. Yes.
Gary, Joe mentioned that you left in January 2006. How much of a better coach are you now, do you believe, than you were then when you left this building?
Well, no doubt. I mean, you learn so much. You know, in Houston, the great thing I was part of as a head coach in Houston, I was part of a building process. You know, starting from scratch basically, and you know, working our way to becoming a relative football team, a playoff football team. So that process, and which I really enjoyed, you know, I think I learned a great deal from that standpoint. I learned a lot once we got there. You know, the expectations became created. You know, I probably learned more in my last year, which was my most difficult year, than I maybe did in all those years. I mean, you learn from those type of things too. And then I really can't explain the value of last year for me as a coach, being around John Harbaugh, being around that organization, being around Ozzie Newsome, watching them go about their business, how they go about being successful week in and week out. So I take all that with me as I move forward. And I mean, I know I'm a lot better coach now than I was when I left. A lot more experience, but it still gets back to the people you surround yourself with. I think all coaches are only as good as the players they have and the coaches they got working with them, and we'll have a great group doing that, I promise you.
Gary, when you were sick and you came out of it, were there steps you had to take? You're known as a workaholic. Have you had to adjust your schedule? And regarding your rush offense, do you see that as something you'd be able to implement here? You're famous for, you know, the running backs, the yardage they produce, and your zone blocking scheme.
I wouldn't say I adjusted my schedule in any ways. I think I had some people sit me down and say, you know, you need to do these things a little bit different. You know, that's really about all it was. So I think I've learned from that. As far as the rushing offense, you know, we teach everything. You know, I get to ask that question a lot. You know, the zone system, you know, can it fit? We actually teach everything. We teach gap schemes. We teach zones. We're going to do what the team does best. You know, we're going to do what the players do best, and this team does best. And I think over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been fortunate to have a leading rusher in the league, a leading thrower, a leading receiver. You know, it's about fitting your system to what the player. We're going to run the Denver Broncos offense, not Gary Kubiak's offense. We're going to fit it to our players and what they do best.
Gary, welcome back.
Hey, Les, how you doing?
Hey. At times in your career, you have been a reluctant head coach. At times, even reluctant to interview for head coaching positions, as we read your statement a couple of weeks ago out of Baltimore. When John comes calling, I'm sure you want to take the phone call, you feel it necessary to take the phone call, and it's the Broncos organization. Is this the only job you would have entertained as a head coach?
This year, yeah, that's very safe to say, Les. I felt very good in what I was doing and how much I'd grown the last year. Ron and I actually sat down and talked about it when I got back Saturday night, you know, because there were some things going on and some people that wanted me to visit with them right away. But I was very comfortable saying, no, I'm going to continue this path that I'm on and keep going. But this is a game changer, you know, it's as simple as that. And that's the same words I think I used to Coach Harbaugh when we talked after John had called and asked permission to visit with me. And, you know, I mean, this is where I got my start. This is like I said over and over again, this is home for me. This means so much to me. And I can't wait to just go out there and fight the fight, you know, and bleed with this city and this team and this organization, because I was standing there with them when they won the last championship, as I've said, Les, and that's what we all work for. And for me to have a chance to go back and battle each and every day with John and with Joe and try to go get that again, it's just, you know, chance of a lifetime. So yes, it was a game changer for me.
Gary, when it comes to motivating players, what's your philosophy in trying to get the most out of a player?
Well, I think all players are different. I mean, I think as a coach, that's the number one challenge you have is, you know, finding a way to get the best out of each and every player. There's an old saying, you know, you treat players fairly, you don't treat them all equally. And I think as a coach, I've learned that more and more as time is. And, you know, you have so many veteran players on your team, but then yet you've got the 21-year-old young man who can go out there and help you win a championship too. So I think they're all different. Motivation always starts with the head coach. But I think one of the things I've learned, you've got to let you've got great coaches on your staff. You've got to give them a chance to get in front of your team, to be a part of that process on a regular basis. It can't always be about you. And then obviously your football team is motivated from the leadership. You know, that starts at the top. Your leaders, your captains, the people that all these guys are looking up to. So it's a group effort. It's not all about me, but it'll start with me, but we're going to have to all be involved in that process.
Gary, what kind of pressure tactics did John use on you over the weekend? Lock the door?
No, you know what?
Making sure you sign?
Actually, we did the contract in about 5 minutes, I think, so that didn't take long. But no, you know what? It was very enjoyable for me. We got together Sunday afternoon. The games are on the TV. We're just talking football, talking philosophy, talking organization, and it was just very comfortable for me. Matt was there, Tom was there, great group of people. So it was very comfortable for me, guys. I don't know how it was for y'all, but it was a great afternoon. Before I knew it, we turned around and it was 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So no, I have tremendous respect for John as a person. I have so much belief in what he's doing as a football guy and what he's doing for this organization. So, for me to know that right next door down the hall, that guy's in control of what's happening is a great feeling for me, a very comfortable feeling for me.
Coach, several years ago, Peyton Manning, as a free agent, was considering several different teams, including the Texans, and that didn't work out for you then. Why is he never mind him thinking about things, why is he your number one choice now?
Well, first off, I don't think that's been addressed correctly, so I'm looking forward to addressing that myself. It's not with organizations, there's so many things with putting a football team together. It's not about yes on this guy, no. It's not that easy. And I know you go back to that situation. I know that's the first year that the Houston Texans had found success. So we made the playoffs that year, won a playoff game, had a very good football team. We had a struggle keeping our team together at the end of that season. We lost, I want to say, somewhere between 10, 12 quality free agents. D'Amico Ryans, I can sit here and name some guys. So at that time for us, we were trying to hang on to a lot of things. There were some things leaving the building and not coming in. So, you have to make decisions that are best for your team and your organization and trying to stay competitive, stay in the moment. And we were able to do that. We were able to come back the next year. We had a really good football team, won 12 games. We're in the thick of it there at the end again. So, those are tough decisions, but the organization, you have to stand up and do what you think is best. But it was not that simple. It did not happen exactly that way. Yes.
Coach, I know you and John are obviously great friends, 30 years together, but was there ever a time, especially right after the draft, when he gets traded here because I have to think that you thought, maybe I'm going to be the Broncos quarterback in the future, and then we weren't fast friends forever?
I can't say that I ever thought that. I was just trying to make the team. No, I remember getting drafted here, and the weather was really bad, and we were having mini camp, and so they put us on a bus and took us to Air Force to practice. I do remember that, and I had to throw next to him for a day, and after that day, I called home and said I had no chance. So that's what I remember. But fortunately, it worked out, and I was able to hang around for a while. But that was a day in time when really teams stuck together. I know John and I were talking about a lot of our teammates the last 2 days, and teams were held together. Times have changed a little bit. There's a lot more movement, pro football, and those type of things. But no, it was a great 9 years for me, and we had a heck of a football team, and obviously he was the biggest reason that did a tremendous job.
Gary, was there a specific moment when you and Rhonda knew this was the right decision, or did you feel it all along this was the right move?
No, I mean, the night when John, I think it was Thursday when John had talked to Coach Harbaugh and was able to talk to me, and we got a chance to get together. It was either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. I can't remember. I pinched myself. Ron and I sat down and said, "Can't believe this is happening." It's a crazy business. So, no, from the get-go for me, it was obvious that if I was going to get another opportunity to be a head coach in this business, for me to have this opportunity, it would be extremely special. Yes.
Your predecessor went 49-22. It wasn't good enough because the team didn't come up big in big games. How, as a coach, will you make sure that your players play to the moment, step up big like that?
Well, first off, I have tremendous respect for John and his staff and the job that they did here. I mean, did a tremendous job. And I think that kind of goes with the question you just asked me a while ago. That goes with expectations, you know. And like I told you before, I'm okay with that. I mean, things happen in this business for various reasons, one way or another. And, you know, when I got my first start being a head coach, I was hoping that maybe I would be one of those guys that would never get fired or get let go. You know, I think we all understand it's part of our game. It's part of things that happen, and we understand that, and we move on and keep battling. So, like I said, I think that goes back to expectations. I understand the expectations. I have tremendous respect with what has happened here in the past and what has happened here in the past just recently. But we'll keep battling, and we got to get ourselves, like I said, in that position again as a football team. And when we get there, we've got to be at our best. So that's what we'll go to work on. But you know, right now we can only have a good OTAs. We got to stay focused on those things. We need to crush every day as a organization and get the most out of each day. So we will stay focused on the moment.
Two more for Coach Kubiak. Gary, two things. First, didn't Mike Shanahan once dispatch you to try and talk John into coming back for one more year? And did you think about that at all when John was coming to you to be the coach of the team? Secondly, do you have a good feeling about what you're going to do on the defensive staff, including the coordinator?
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of have been through this process before, and John and I talked about that. But it takes me back to John. You know, I was there for John. I was a support system for John. John knew I was always there for him. Obviously, there were conversations in John's last couple of years and what he was doing, whether he was going to continue to play, those type of things. And I can tell you right now, we talked a lot, but John made that decision. John was the one who knew what he wanted to do. And, you know, I remember going into John's last year, we sat down and visited, and from the get-go, I knew that John was going to continue to play. I knew that. And I also knew the time I was sent back to visit again, he told me within 5 minutes, we're going to sit here and visit, but I'm not playing anymore. So I have been through that process with John, and I understand, but it's about them. It's about the player and respect for that player and what they've done throughout their career. So like I said, I'll continue to be as supportive as I can. The other question, Jeff, I think you asked me about the staff. Was that right? You know what? The wheels are turning. I'm working on that as we speak, but I really think we stay away from that right now. You know, I'd hate to jeopardize anything we have going on. I do want to get it done as quickly as I possibly can, but there's so many things still in the works. I think, you know, let me just stay the course here, and hopefully we'll have some answers for you pretty quickly.
Last one, Renaud.
Gary, will you be calling the plays?
Obviously, that's something I've been doing my whole career. I love it. That's you know, that's where my competitive juices flow, calling the game, those type of things. At the same time, my expectations are to have some people around me that I am very, very comfortable calling games, that I have worked with before. So if things work out, you know, I think those guys will be very much involved too. I think one of the things I've learned as a head coach, I need to be you know, much more available from that standpoint throughout the whole football team. And sometimes being a play caller, you make it a little tunnel vision in one area. I can't do that again. But will I be involved with that? Yes, I'd love to do that.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much.
John Elway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, John. This didn't seem like much of a search as searches go. It seemed like Gary was your guy right from the start. Is that pretty much right?
Well, I mean, he was at the top of the list. There's no question. I think that, you know, with the relationship that we've talked about, that everybody knew that I had with Gary, that he was definitely at the top of the list. And, you know, we did talk to Adam. We did have a couple that backed out or wanted to see where the search was going, because they knew that, you know, Gary was the leader in the clubhouse. So therefore, by the time when we got to talk to Gary, and he confirmed and even was much better than I even expected. And, you know, because the bottom line is, our concern was did Gary want to coach again? Did Gary want to be that guy? And I think that, you know, once we got a chance to sit down and talk to him, there was no question in my mind that you know, he wanted to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos.
Hey, John, you talked about here recently that you and Coach Fox didn't quite see eye to eye on how to get to the next level. Gary had some good teams in Houston that couldn't quite get to that next level. What makes you, as a head coach, convinced that Gary's the guy to take
Well,
it to the
you know,
next
I think we talk about getting to the next level, and I think, as Gary said, we got to get through the first business, get ourselves in position to have that chance. Now, is it going to work out every time? No, it's not going to work out every time. You know, we like to say it is, but there's a lot of things that have to happen for you once you get into January to be able to win a world championship. Things got to fall for you right too. You got to be playing your best football, but also there is a piece of that puzzle that is part of it is you got to get a little bit lucky. The ball's got to bounce your way to be world champion. So sure, I know that's part of what it is, but you know, the reason I know is Gary's been there. Gary's done it. He's seen it. He understands. He's been there. He's won a world championship with Mike, and so he's seen that. He's been with the Baltimore Ravens, who have won several world championships. He's seen how they do it. Now, that's not to guarantee we're going to get it done. We're going to do everything we can to get it done, and that is our goal, to get it done. And it's kind of funny. You know, we talk about you know, comments that. You know, this is a place that's, you know, it's win a championship or nothing. But that's how it's always been. Nothing's changing there. Pat Bowlen, that's what Pat Bowlen wants. And that's why it's great that Gary's experience here being a Denver Bronco understands that. So my job is to give Gary as much support as we can. Joe and Pat, I mean, they do a tremendous job with the resources that they give us, at least to be able to do the best we can to be successful. And that's what we're going to do. And I know Gary's got the ability to do that. If you know, we want it to happen, sure. Are we going to guarantee it's going to happen? No. But the one thing we can guarantee is that we're going to work our tail off to try to get it done. And as I said, my job is to give Gary as much support as I can and give these players the support that we can. That's my job. And I'm going to do everything I can to be able to get ourselves in that position. And it's up to players to play and coaches to coach.
John, if Peyton Manning does not come back, in your opinion, is Brock Osweiler ready to take you guys to the next level?
You know, we're excited about Brock's progress. I mean, he's been here for 3 years, and you know, he's done everything that has been asked of him. He's been a tremendous student. He's worked his tail off. He's worked his tail off over in the weight room. So, you know, if that were to be the case, you know, I do have confidence that Brock can step in. You know, you never know. I mean, it's a big game. It's a tough game, and you know, the one thing that Brock has been lacking the last 3 years is the fact that he hasn't got a lot of playing time. So I'm confident he can do it, but you know what? The bottom line is he's going to answer those questions when the lights come on.
You mentioned that it's important to you that Gary's a Bronco. You mentioned the championship or bust culture that's always been here.
Did you say bust? I don't think it's a bust. I mean, I don't think it's bust. I think it's our goal is to win a championship. Our standards are to win a championship.
Okay. If you don't win a championship, you could get fired as a coach. I get that.
Or you mutually part ways.
Okay. It's always a tricky thing. This is the question. What Gary mentioned is that the NFL is different than when you and he were teammates. And how do you establish that culture and cultivate that, what you want as a Broncos organization? How much more difficult is it because of turnover in the locker room is much greater than it was 15, 20 years ago?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, it is more difficult because of the movement, and I think it, you know, that's, you know, but that's a great thing for the players also, and the fact that they're able to maximize their value while they have the chance to play. So I think it's a positive for the players. I think, you know, how do you create that culture? I think a lot of players want to win world championships. I believe that. I was as a player. I wanted to win a world championship. So therefore, when we talk about the culture being the Denver Broncos, what is our goal? I think we sell ourselves short as an organization. And I know our owner would think the same thing, that if we didn't sell ourselves as wanting to win a world championship, that's the culture here. We're going to do everything we can to provide that, because that's what great players, to me, players want to win world championships. Obviously, they're going to make a lot of money. you know, and that's a good thing. But the things that stick with them, and I've talked to the team about this before, the thing that sticks with them is the memory of going through and winning a world championship with your teammates. Those things last a lifetime. The money's the money. The things that last a lifetime are being able to compete for world championships. Not to say guarantee you're going to win one, but to compete for them.
And I'm curious, before you called Gary the first time in this process, did you think you would coach again? Or coach this year, I guess?
Be dead honest with you, yes, I did. I think, I know Gary well enough. You know the experience that he had and the experience that he's had, what he went through in Houston, and really thought that, if there's one place that he might, I always figured he'd be a head coach again. But I thought we really had a good chance if we showed him what the Denver Broncos are about. He knows that, but show him the team we have and to find out where he was. That I was expecting him to be able to want to be the coach here.
John, as part of that, when you talked to Gary, were you comfortable with where he was health-wise, the commitment? He's a workaholic. That he had this run left, this kind of second stage left in his career as a head coach in terms of his health. And what impressed you more about Gary? Was it as a teammate or as your coordinator that makes you think that he's the right fit now?
First of all, going through the health side of it, I think Gary, as we talked about it, and he said, he said it was a good lesson for him. I think a lot of times, obviously my dad was a coach and he didn't take great care of himself, so we've talked about that before. And I think, as Gary said, it was a good thing for him because now he had to be, more conscious of his health and how he was treating his body and the things that he was working, because he is a guy that, you have to pull the reins back on him because that's kind of what a workaholic he is. And so I think that was, as Gary told me, a great lesson for him. So, and then what was the next part?
What did you see in terms of him as a player?
Well, I think that I had to see him as a player, and we were in the same meetings and for 9 years that Gary was here. Then to see him come back, and I knew when I played with Gary, the way he went about meetings is he wanted to be a coach. He was, in meetings. Now he handled meetings. The notes he took in meetings, showed me that when he was done playing, he wanted to be a coach. And then when he became a coach, I think the training under Mike, but also the experience that he took from him playing, he's a tremendous offensive mind and a tremendous leader. He's become a tremendous leader, and I think that is, to me, you saw what he did with the Ravens, as Joe mentioned, and what he did in 1 year with that offense. That I think that, to me, the intelligence side that he has, really football knowledge-wise, gives us a big advantage.
John, you didn't hesitate the last year to address the team when you felt they needed a little fire, a little spunk. Will you do the same thing with Cougs, and do you think that undermines the head coach a little bit?
Well, that's up to the head coach. I think if I was in that situation, I think sometimes it's always good to have a different voice. But that would be up to Gary. I asked John, and John said, yeah, but he would love for me to do that. We bring in guest speakers all the time, so I always like talking about the experience that I've had and the worth. And I understand, having sat in those chairs out there, being a player, how hard it is and how much work it does take. And a lot of times you get into week 9. Week 10, week 11, you're sitting there going, this season's never going to get over, even if you're doing well. And I think that sometimes it's nice to be able to remind that, hey, all the work you're going through is going to be all worth it. It's all worth the work that you're going through because you're getting yourself in a position to compete for a world championship. And so, that's up to Gary. And so if he thought I could be helpful in that area, I'd be more than happy to do that.
John, last week you said Peyton was going to be involved. You talked to him as you went through the process of finding a new coach. How much of that actually was the case? And now, 10 days later or 8 days later, do you feel better about knowing where Peyton's at and if he's going to come back?
Again, I told you that a week ago, I'm not talking to Peyton about what his plans are, because I don't think he's ready to talk about it. He may think he is, and I just think that the more time he can get away, he'll be able to come away from a decision with the best decision. I will say this: I talked to Peyton Saturday and kind of gave him an update, said we're going down to talk to Gary on Sunday, and it's been a whirlwind since then. But I also want to emphasize, there's 52 other guys that we got to worry about here. And I think that, we win this thing as a team. And so I want to emphasize the fact that, yeah, sure, we do want Peyton's input, and I do, understand Peyton's side of it, where he wants to do and all that. But it really is, too, also. There's 52 other guys on this roster and 10 guys on the practice squad, and now guys that we've signed as to future contracts that, those guys are really, really important, too. And I think this organization's important. So my job, as I say, is sure, I want to try to do everything I can to help Peyton in his decision. But it's also very important that we take care of those other guys that are under contract with us that are on this football team, because they're just as important.
Hey, John, two-part question. One, how much input in personnel matters is Gary going to have come draft time, free agency, et cetera? Second part of the question, knowing what you know about him in terms of him as a coach, his offensive philosophy, are there going to be major tweaks as to how you load this team up to fit what Gary does as a coach?
Well, we're going to go through all those meetings. We're going to have all those meetings. I guarantee you. Gary and I are going to come out of the room with the right decision for the Denver Broncos. And so that's how Gary's going to have a great influence on what this team, how we shape this team. So, yeah, Gary's going to have a huge influence on that. We'll get through it. We haven't had time. It's been a whirlwind. We haven't time, but we will get into the meetings and look at things as far as what he's looking at, as far as offensive linemen, defensively, and we'll get into all those meetings with the coaches. And so that will be coming up.
Last question, Mark.
With all due respect to the other 52, pardon another Peyton question. There was a great story that was told about Gary trying to recruit you, and you made up your mind on your own. And I was interested in the Sports Illustrated quote that had you telling Peyton, have some fun with this.
Have fun with what?
You need to have more fun with this, is what I remember.
You're talking about during the season?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
How much of a recruiting role do you feel like you should have with a quarterback of that stature, a player of that stature, and how much is still having fun with the game important to a quarterback or any player in addition to?
I'm not sure those two tie, Mike. I said, Mark, I think that, during the season, the bottom line is it gets tough. And I think, if we looked at when I talked about that quote that you saw was St. Louis, and you could see that his face was, his mannerisms did not look like he was enjoying himself. And I think his football, especially the older you get, it's very, sometimes you lose consciousness as far as why you're playing the game, because you start thinking of the end goal before you get there and you're not enjoying what you're doing. And so that's what that comment was for, was try to get him to enjoy what he was doing and try to take away from all the outside stuff, but just get back to the basics of football while you're doing it. So that's what that was. I will get into that once we start talking to Peyton, once he gets away, gets a breather, and when we come back and start sitting down. Now, again, we go back to the same thing, Patrick. We have these off-season rules that we have to follow too, so we got to make sure we're clear as far as when we meet with Peyton in the off-season, what we can do there. Believe it or not, those are situations that we have to be aware of. But, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be a listener to Peyton. And I want to be a listener. And if he asks questions, then I'm going to answer the questions for him. And hopefully that will help him come to the decision for, the best decision for him.
More listener than recruiter, though. Is that fair? Or?
At this point in time, once we sit down, I think, the bottom line is I don't think Peyton needs to know whether we want him or not. I think Peyton has to figure out what he can do, what's best for him, what's best for this team, and in the big picture of his life. It's a big step. As I said, when I retired, the first 95% of decisions of whether you're going to retire or not, that's the easy part. The last 5% is the hardest step, because that's actually the step that you're finally saying, I'm not playing what I love to play anymore, and I can't do it anymore. So you can get 95% there. That 5% is, or 99. That final step, when you step across and say, I'm retiring, that is a big step. So.
Okay, thank you.